What is silica and why should we care? Well, you're about to find out. Hi, I'm Rachel from Ally Safety. I'm a certified safety professional and a certified industrial hygienist, which means I specialize in substances like silica and how to prevent exposures. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. If you like our YouTube videos, make sure to check out our video subscription to access over 150 video courses. Check it out at allysafety.com. Today, we're going to cover 7 key points that address what you need to know about silica. Silica basics, what it is, where you'll find it, how exposures occur, what happens when you get exposed, what is silicosis, identifying hazards, OSHA and MSHA limits, and reducing exposures. And that's it. Silica is simple, so is this training. Silica basics. So what is silica? I know it's not a common word that we use in everyday language, but it's actually a really common substance. It's so common because the mass of Earth's crust is actually 59% silica, and it's the main ingredient in more than 95% of known rocks. Anytime we have rock dust, we have the potential for silica exposures. So yeah, it's pretty much everywhere. Now with that in mind, as you might imagine, silica exposures have existed for literally thousands of years. In fact, the earliest recorded case of silicosis was in 400 BC by the physician Hippocrates, who described lung disease in stonecutters. Fast forward a few thousand years, and Bernardino Ramazzini, who's known as the father of occupational medicine, described dust-related illnesses in stonecutters in 1705. He warned that breathing in stone dust could cause breathing problems, but then it took another 250 years for us to regulate it. Today, OSHA estimates that 2.3 million workers in the US are exposed to respirable crystalline silica, which is the specific kind of silica that can cause health problems. So yep, not a new issue, but still an issue. How silica exposures occur. So silica is all around us, and it's really not a problem until it's pulverized in the form of fine dust and then inhaled. As you might expect, silica exposures are common for workers in a lot of different industries. But think of things like mining, construction, abrasive blasting, and manufacturing. Or to put it more simply, anywhere rock is drilled, blasted, crushed, cut, concrete is cut, abrasive blasting is used, or any similar process that's known for turning this into this. Rock dust can actually vary a lot in size and composition. So when it comes to silica, what you need to know is the smallest particles get into your deep lung and cause the most problems. Those small particles are called respirable. Those are the ones that are under 4 microns in size, which is actually smaller than a red blood cell. So that's the size issue. Then we've got different types of silica. To be hazardous, it has to be crystalline silica, which means it can form crystals, like in the case of quartz, cristobalite, or tridymite. The reason this type of silica is more dangerous is actually super simple. Now imagine this on a microscopic level. Crystalline silica is jagged, angular, and acts like tiny shards that embed themselves in the lungs. I know what you're thinking. What? Crystals can be bad? And yes, they can be very bad. Small crystals exist in a lot of different types of rock, like granite, sandstone, and shale, and they actually make up 12% of the Earth's crust. So yeah, crystalline silica can be a big problem. It's when you combine those two things, small enough to be respirable and the crystalline structure, that you get respirable crystalline silica, which is the big problem. So what happens when you're exposed to respirable crystalline silica? When you breathe in respirable crystalline silica, those tiny particles travel deep into your lungs. They're too small to see, but too sharp for your body to ignore. So your lungs are going to treat these crystals like an invader. And similar to how your skin reacts to a splinter, the immune system does the same thing in the lungs by trying to trigger inflammation to push them out. But silica doesn't get pushed out. It doesn't break down, and it doesn't go away. So instead, your body walls it off with scar tissue. Over time, each exposure to respirable crystalline silica adds more tiny spots of permanent scarring. And here's the problem. Scar tissue doesn't stretch. So as your lungs try to expand with each breath, those stiff, damaged areas restrict the airflow. So instead of expanding and contracting like this, you get this. It's a slow, silent process. And by the time symptoms like fatigue or shortness of breath show up, the damage is often irreversible. What is silicosis? That damage we've been talking about is silicosis. And silicosis is an incurable lung disease that's most often caused by a long-term inhalation of silica dust. Now, it used to be seen mostly in older workers after decades of exposure, but that's changed. Today, even younger workers in industries like stone countertop fabrication have developed aggressive forms of silicosis after just a few years. And the reason for that is new products like engineered stone, for example, can contain over 90% crystalline silica, which puts unprotected workers on a fast track to severe lung damage. In some of the worst cases, doctors performing autopsies on those who had silicosis described lungs so filled with fine rock dust it was like cutting through sand. Yeah, it's pretty gross, but it also is pretty eye-opening on how your body processes those tiny shards of silica. Silicosis doesn't just make breathing harder, as if that's not bad enough, but it also increases the risk of lung cancer, COPD, and kidney disease. Symptoms can include persistent cough, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, and frequent lung infections. Once silicosis begins, there is no cure, only management of the disease. That's why prevention is where we focus. Identifying hazards. The best way to prevent exposures is to identify hazards early on and stop the dust from becoming airborne. Ask yourself, am I working with silica-containing materials? Is dust being generated? Is there the potential for that dust to be inhaled? If the answer is yes, you need controls to protect your lungs. Even if a task seems low risk, like think of things like cutting, grinding, drilling, or even sweeping, they all can release dangerous silica dust. And remember, the most hazardous particles are so small, you can't even see them when they're in the air. Also, make sure to think about tasks that you don't do routinely, like maintenance, cleanup, or standing near somebody who's actually generating the dust with the work they're doing. If dust is in the air and you're breathing that air, you're exposed. Identifying where the dust is created and who might inhale it is step one in silica safety. Next is communicating the hazard so you can get the right controls in place. Silica Exposure Prevention. The good news is preventing exposure is simple. Once you recognize a silica hazard, your job is pretty clear. Keep the dust from becoming airborne. You can do this in a couple really simple ways. Wet the dust, like using water while cutting. Collect the dust, like using vacuum systems with HEPA filters. Contain the dust, using enclosures or barriers. These methods are common, affordable, and effective. You'll see water trucks on mine roads, enclosed cutting setups on stone saws, and wet methods used in concrete work. There are plenty of options. If airborne dust can't be avoided, then use respirators, which need to be properly selected and fit tested as well as maintained. Also, you can use administrative controls, like keeping others out of the work area where the dust is being generated. You'll want to work with your safety team to make sure your plan covers all the angles. Exposure limits. If you're getting exposed to respirable crystalline silica, How much is too much? Well, OSHA has rules for that, and they call these rules permissible exposure limits, or PELs. It's basically how much you can be exposed to in the average 8-hour shift without consequences. When it comes to respirable crystalline silica, it's measured in micrograms per cubic meter of air. Now, the original exposure limits were implemented back in 1971 when OSHA was created. They were based on data from the 1960s, before OSHA even existed, and back when workplace safety was really in its infancy. That translates to historically high limits. For construction and shipyards, the permissible exposure limit was 250 micrograms per cubic meter of air. In general industry, it was 100 micrograms per cubic meter of air. And when MSHA was established for mining, they followed OSHA at 100 micrograms per cubic meter of air. The result of the high permissible exposure limits was over 600 silica-related deaths per year and thousands more cases of preventable disease. Now, this disease can take decades to develop, so it actually took a pretty long time to realize that the permissible exposure limits weren't doing enough to reduce fatalities. So, in 2016, OSHA massively reduced the permissible exposure limit, dropping it to 50 micrograms per cubic meter of air for construction, shipyards, and general industry, with an action level of 25 micrograms per cubic meter. What that means is if the action level is reached, it triggers exposure controls. Now, it took the mining industry a little while to catch up, but they followed suit in April of 2024, dropping the limit to 50 micrograms per cubic meter as well. So will this change eliminate all silica-related illnesses? No. But it's expected to reduce new silicosis cases to around 100 to 200 cases per year, which is down from much higher historical rates. There's still a lot of progress to be made, and a lot of that progress is actually going to depend on people following the permissible exposure limits to effectively reduce exposure, as well as training to spread the word about the hazards of silica dust through trainings just like this one. So that's what you need to know about silica. What do you think? Have you or someone you know suffered from exposure to silica? Let me know in the comments below. Silica is a common hazard, and exposure can be dangerous, but it's also preventable. Your health is in your hands, so let's all learn from the past, take the hazard seriously, and use the tools we have to put this centuries-old hazard to rest. As always, thanks for watching, take care, and stay safe. Hi, Rachel from Ally Safety here. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out the Ally Safety Toolbox Talk membership at allysafety.com. There you'll find an entire library of videos that are created to make safety entertaining. I'll see you there at allysafety.com.